I am talking today about manifesting. I am sharing with you some messages that were given to me by my guides, and this was back in November of 2022. And so I've been thinking about, how do I share this? Because at the end of the message, they said, now go tell some people. And so I have been, when I get into that kind of conversation with people, I always share it. I had been gifted a plant medicine weekend. I went to the place where it was, and on the first day I was sitting chatting with the facilitator. We're talking about stuff, and I ended up telling her about this house and how I came to be here and how I came to live here. And the next day, as we were getting ready to go into the plant medicine space, she pulls me close and she says, you're a master manifestor. You could make a lot of money teaching people how to do this. And I said, I think people can do this for themselves. And she said, no, they can't. But someone like you could help them and teach them, and you could make a lot of money doing it. So I was pretty annoyed because I felt like that had the possibility to affect my journey. But I blew it off a little bit and just continued, just whoosah, and continue with my journey. As my journey started, I'm looking at a giant movie screen, and it's all like the material expressions of wealth. There's a yacht, there's fancy cars, there's stacks of money and jewelry and designer clothes and handbags. And my guides say to me, you can do this, you can have all of this. I'm kind of just, wow, look at that. The things are beautiful. They're all very aesthetically beautiful things. And I thought, that's really cool. But I have some questions. How can I focus on manifesting all of this stuff, this just material stuff, when things like human trafficking and war and mass levels of corruption in every organized religion and political system in the world exists? So they split the screen, and while I'm asking this question, there's this volcano and all of this black goo is just spewing out of it like lava. People are being just dumped into this volcano, and it's of course mostly women and children. But then there's like symbols of war. So there's tanks rolling by, and there's Russian symbols, and then Tom Hanks is in front of the volcano, and those weird glove pictures. Looking at that, and that was my question. How can I focus on manifesting all of this material wealth when I know this kind of stuff is going on in the world? And my guide said, well, it is and it isn't. And I thought, the hell it isn't. I know it is. I see it on TV. I hear about it. I know people who have been trafficked. Then my guides said, or they asked me, well, who does it serve? And that was kind of a disturbing thought, because I thought, well, what do you mean, who does it serve? And then they started showing me pictures of newscasters and news stations and podcasters and YouTubers and everybody who could possibly be involved with that kind of stuff, or creating the reporting around it, the content around it. And I could see that a lot of people were being served by these things that I consider bad and horrible. I was frustrated by that. My guides began to show me the nature of manifestation, how people manifest at different levels. They said, you have been coded genetically to be able to manifest at a high level. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going along in this journey and watching all of the things that I have brought about. And I was thinking, wow, that is really cool. Like, I am literally genetically coded to be able to manifest. And that slight bit of what we would call ego starts to sneak in. And my guides are like, yeah, but spoiler alert, everybody is. Every human is coded for that. Now they're showing me a double helix. It splits apart and fans out. I can see all the little genome or genes, whatever you want to call it. And little bitty ones are like lighting up and twinkling. They're showing me the exact genes that are for manifesting. And I was like, wow, okay. And there it was. It's in the basic code. So then my next question was, if we're all coded for that, how come I can do it and it seems like so many other people just can't? And they said, oh, well, there's a gene for faith. I thought, well, that's interesting, because back in the day, I think I was like 27 when I first started going to church. The church I was going to was kind of big into identifying people's spiritual gifts. Mine had been identified as faith, discernment, and wisdom. I mean, which at the time I was 27. And even then I was like, I think you got the wrong girl. I don't think, I mean, maybe faith, but certainly not discernment or wisdom. That leads into epigenetics. We'll get into that in a minute. I'm having this moment where I'm like, I'm genetically coded for faith. That's it. That's what gives me that extra edge. And of course, my guides are like, everybody is coded with faith. I said, well, then how come not everybody uses it? And again, they said, well, they do and they don't. Everything you see, everything that happens in the world is a manifestation. And so, of course, I'm like, here we go again. Okay, so now they're showing me quantum physics, and they're showing me, you know, the wave, which is potential matter, and then the particle, which is matter. When scientists test matter, it's difficult to impossible, because the matter that exists or that becomes is always affected by the person observing it. If you want a little bit more weird explanation on that, you can look up, I think it's called Schrodinger's cat, however you say that. Things do and don't exist all at the same time, because everything is potential. So for example, my coffee cup. This feels solid to me, but in reality, it is something like 99.9999999, however many nines, empty space. And then conversely, it is 0.00000, however many zeros, 1 actual matter. And when I observe this cup, that fractional amount of matter becomes this. I don't fully understand it, but you can go down your own rabbit hole on that. So that's what my guide said, is that everything exists as it does because of the way humans observe it, and because we are all coded for manifestation. That's how it happens. I needed a little bit more explanation. They also said you're supposed to share this, but you have to share it in a way that's easy enough for a child to understand it. To make sure that I understand it, they bring me here to my house, and we are standing in front of my electrical panel. They're showing me all of the energy, all of the electricity that comes into my house. All of the potential energy is there, and it comes into my house and up into my electrical panel. And I want to say there's maybe 20 breakers out there, the big switches, you know. And most everybody has all of their breakers on their house, because you want as much power as possible to all the parts of your house. Certain breakers control certain rooms or certain parts of your house. Most people have all of the breakers on their main panel. All of the energy coming to the house, turning on all the breakers, that's being coded for manifestation. Now the difference is epigenetics. And epigenetics is something that probably a lot of you have heard about. It's how certain switches in your genetic code are turned on and off by what you eat, the environment you live in, how you live, what you think. All of these things affect what actually expresses in your genetic code. So to explain that, they then were walking through my house and they said epigenetics are like the switches in your house in each room. All of your breakers can be on at the panel, but you may have a spare bedroom, for example, that you don't ever use, and so those switches are always off. The potential is there, but you don't turn it on. The power is on to it, but you don't turn that individual switch on. And I thought, it's that simple. And they said, well, it's that simple, but it's also that hard. People don't know that they can do that. There are people who live in houses and they have these switches that they don't know when they go to, so they don't mess with them. I'm one of those people that's like switching everything on and off. I want to know. So that is basically what they said. Now, they did say, for me specifically, because I am, I guess, what is considered a high-level manifestor, because I know that I can manifest, and I know that I can manifest good things, but all of this human trafficking and all of these horrible things in the world, I really feel that for some reason, and it's probably because I'm a mom. So part of the message was also that I'm not really, the word wasn't mature. The word, it was similar to that, like strength, maturity. When I see those things, when I hear about those things, it puts off a little bit of fear in me. That lends to an overall fearful energy that is not good. Now, the reason it's not good, here's more. There are these entities that, I don't want to call them demonic, but I don't know what they are. They just seem dark and heavy. And they said these entities feed on fear and chaos and the thoughts of scarcity. So that's part of why on the news there's so much crap, fear-mongering, if you will. And it's because these things eat. That's like, kind of like in Monsters, Inc. You know how the monsters would go in and scare the kids and the kids would scream, and then they would collect that into a tank, and that's how they ran their city. They showed me that that's actually a thing. But conversely, they said these things starve on faith, like they starve in the face of faith. The more people they can keep in fear, the better for them. And the more people who figure out that faith is the key, the worse for them. And again, they kind of showed me that Monsters, Inc. thing. If you don't have kids, you won't know this unless you've seen the movie, but at the end, the monsters figure out that laughter is 10 times as powerful as scream. So that made me think of that movie in a whole different way. If you haven't seen it in a while, it might be worth watching it. I quit watching the news a very long time ago just because it was so depressing, and because, you know, paying for cable, it's so expensive, and it was just crap all the time, and I didn't want to spend my money on that and to be scared all the time. Now it's at a point where, you know, I can't control everybody, but I can set the tone for my own home and my property. If someone comes to my house and begins talking about all of this scary stuff that goes on in the world somewhere, I stop them. I tell them, not here. Part of what my guides showed me is that until I am strong enough or mature enough to look at these images and hear about these stories that just do not acknowledge them at all. But that's not really enough. You can't just stick your head in the sand and act like these things aren't going on in the world, because they are. Other people are actually manifesting these things by way of fear, and they're thinking about it. It is what they are observing, and so it is what becomes. It's called the observer effect. What my guides showed me is that I have to intentionally bring about the kind of world that I want to live in. I have to very intentionally manifest not just goodness in my space, but goodness that affects the entire world. And what they showed me was how God created the world. So part of this, and if you're not comfortable with Christianity or biblical talk, this may not be for you, but this is what they showed me. They took me to Genesis and showed me the part where it talks about God creating the world. He spoke it into existence. It was an act. It was an active participation in manifesting. And so they showed me how powerful our words are, that if I want the world to be safe and wonderful for everyone, that I need to visualize that and I need to speak it out loud every day. Do not acknowledge all of the fear and misery and darkness. Do not speak against it. Do not pray against it, but instead speak of the world as I would like it to be, as I desire it to be. So, for example, every day and as many times a day as I can think to do it, I say something like, I am so grateful that I live in a world where everybody is safe and sovereign and has what they need to live their idea of a good life. It's that simple. It's really that simple. By doing that, number one, it's what I observe. When I say those things, I begin to see those things. I see people who are living wonderful lives, and maybe that is being at the park and seeing parents playing with their kids and just having a good time. Or I see old people being cared for properly, being loved. I see young people being able to play without fear. It literally, that's what comes into my scope of vision, because I am speaking that to be. I am observing that, and so it is. Really, those are the keys. So to sum up, you are literally coded in your DNA to manifest. You are literally coded with faith. It's there. You don't have to believe it. It's there. When you hear geneticists talk about junk DNA, there's no junk DNA. It's all there for something. They don't know what it is yet, but it's in there. Your part of the equation is to visualize, not only for yourself, but also for the greater good, for everyone out there, what a really wonderful life would look like. Now, that doesn't mean a life without tragedy. It doesn't mean a life without trials and things like that, because those things are what help us really appreciate when things are wonderful. But I don't think war and human trafficking play into that at all. I think we could have, I know we could have enough contrast of challenges and trials to appreciate how wonderful life really is without war and human trafficking. But the only way to bring that about is to visualize it, look for it, and speak it out loud. Speak it out loud. It's not enough to visualize it and think about it. So that's it. That's the big secret. I have faith that everybody out there will begin to change what they visualize, begin to change what they observe, and begin to change how they speak. And in those moments when you visualize something that's not great, or you let some caca energy words come out of your mouth, you can take them back. You can take them back. You can say, nope, take that back. That's not what I think. That's not what I believe. And then speak over it. Speak over it. Just speak over it. Just say, I am so grateful for fill in the blank, whatever it is. Gratitude is such an amplifier. So that's another little key also. There's some things that really amplify your visions and your observations and your words and just your general energy, and that is love, joy, and gratitude. Those are the highest vibrational emotions, and they act like amplifiers to everything else. So that's it. That was what I was told to share, and I do hope that you enjoy it and you do it.